Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. This week, we're going to be talking about high-efficiency furnaces, and we'd like to thank Lynn Bangaree for liking and sharing the podcast. And we had an interview with Andrew from Fujitsu. And we also are going to be on Pandora in December, so now you can listen and subscribe on Pandora. And we were picked. Yes, because we were picked to be part of the launch of their podcast.
Exciting. One
of the first patents for a furnace with air ducts, multiple burners, and a zone heating design was filed in 1919 by Alice H. Parker. And furnaces in homes with ductwork and a fan to move hot air through the house didn't start to become popular until the 1930s. And most of these furnaces used coal as the fuel. What a drag to fill the furnace with coal. Get the shovel out. The Train Company started in 1885. The Lennox Company was founded in 1895. Bryant in 1904. And Carrier in 1915. And all these companies are still in business and making furnaces.
Cool.
We talked about gas forced air furnaces a few years ago and some of the proposed new standards for high-efficiency furnaces. In 1987, the minimum annual fuel utilization efficiency was...
That's a mouthful.
That's why they call it the AFUE. Mm-hmm. It was 78% for indoor furnaces, or they're called non-weatherized furnaces. In the early 2000s, the Department of Energy raised the minimum efficiency to 80% AFUE. And then in 2013, the DOE passed regulations that 30 northern states must have gas non-weatherized furnaces with a minimum of 90% efficiency, and southern states could be at 80% AFUE.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, huge. So if you're going up from 78 or 80, if you have an older furnace, to these 90% furnaces, much more expensive upfront costs. So there were a lot of lawsuits because of the change, and those regional regulations were remanded in 2014. So the litigation and the standards aren't very clear if you do searches online. So I called the DOE, and right now the minimum non-weatherized gas furnace is 80% nationwide. And the DOE is recommending that gas indoor furnaces go to 92% AFUE nationwide as the minimum, but they're studying the cost for homeowners versus the savings and the environmental impact.
It's really confusing when you're researching this.
Yeah.
Because it's like 80% versus 90%, 90% versus 92%.
And you'll see some maps where it shows two zones. There's other maps that show three different zones for these regional differences. And they're saying, if you read some of these articles, you can only buy in this area a 90% furnace, which isn't true right now. When you go to a furnace that's 90% AFUE and above, it's a condensing furnace, which is very energy efficient, but it's much more expensive in the upfront costs. And because of the low temperature of the exhaust gases, most of these have to be vented out of the sidewall of your home, and you have to have a drain line for condensation. And if you have a furnace that vents out of a chimney now, and you have a gas water heater and it's all tied to the chimney may need to be relined for your water heater only.
So it's a lot more expensive.
Right, absolutely. Energy.gov says a furnace that's 56 to 70 AFUE is low efficiency, 80 to 83% is mid efficiency, and 90 to 98.5 is high efficiency. If you see non-weatherized, this is an indoor furnace. Weatherized furnaces are for outside, like if you had it on your roof. And we talked about furnaces a few years ago. Gas furnaces that were Energy Star had to be 90% or above for southern states, 95% or above for northern states. But I just checked the Energy Star site, and now they're saying the Energy Star certified gas furnaces for the southern half of the U.S. will have a U.S. South label, and they'll be up to 11% more efficient than standard models. And certified furnaces for the north will be up to 15% more efficient, and they're going to have a standard Energy Star label. And the EPA website says that most Energy Star gas furnaces will be high-efficiency condensing furnaces.
What does condensing mean?
In standard and mid-efficiency furnaces, you have one heat exchanger. So the burners are creating heat inside this chamber, and it's guiding the exhaust fumes and CO up and out of the flue. And the outside of this heat exchanger is radiating heat into the ductwork where your blower is pushing it throughout your home. A high-efficiency condensing furnace, 90% AFUE or higher, has a second heat exchanger. So it's shaped to slow down the exhaust and pull out more heat, but the cooler exhaust causes water vapor, and it has to have a tube to either pump out or drain this water from the furnace. Most condensing furnaces have sealed combustion chambers and need to have a duct to bring fresh air in from the outside of your house for combustion. And then most of these are going to be vented through the side of your house. So this is consideration when you're shopping for a furnace.
So if you have an older furnace and you jump to a high efficiency furnace,
right,
there's going to be a lot more labor costs.
Yeah, there could be, especially depending on how high the efficiency is. You may have to reline your chimney if you have a gas water heater and it's by itself. You're going to need a place to drain the condensation. You may have to go through the side of your house with these pipes to draw air in and vent out for the high efficiency. And the upfront costs are more expensive for a high efficiency. So depending on your climate and the location of your furnace, an 80% or mid-efficiency might be more economical. But for cold climates, over the life of your furnace, a high-efficiency furnace is going to save you a lot more money.
Right. So how long should a furnace last?
There was a study done by the National Association of Home Builders, and they're saying the average furnace should last 15 to 20 years. And if you follow the manufacturer's recommended yearly maintenance, you should be able to add another 5 or 6 years onto that. And some of the new furnaces, they have 20-year or lifetime warranties on the heat exchanger, and that's usually the most expensive part to change. And it's the key thing for safety. So if your heat exchanger cracks, carbon monoxide can get into your home.
So this is why you have to have working carbon monoxide detectors.
Right, yeah. You should have CO detectors throughout your house. And now the new recommendation is replace them once every 7 years. Some top-rated carbon monoxide detectors come from Kidde. It's Kidde. First Alert, Nighthawk, and the Nest CO detector is highly rated. And it's a smart sensor, so it will send alerts to your phone, and it actually talks to you if there's a problem in your house.
Setting.
When you're comparing furnaces, single-stage units have one setting for the burners, so it's either full on or it's off. The two-stage units have two settings for the burners, so it usually starts out high to warm up the furnace, and then it lowers the gas flow, and this is going to increase efficiency, and it's going to give you more even heating. The multi-stage or modulating furnaces have a range of settings for the burners, so it can keep the temperature very consistent because it's running longer at lower settings, and it can also give you a burst of heat if there's a big change in temperature.
Like what? You open up the door and leave it open?
Right. Right. So these are going to be the most efficient, the multi-stage or the modulating furnaces. And just going from a single stage, even if you kept the same AFUE and you went from a single stage unit to a two-stage, it's going to be more energy efficient. And then if you go to the multi-stage, even more efficient.
What else should you compare?
The fan speed, or it could be called the blower speed. The lower cost, low efficiency furnaces, they're going to have one fan speed. With your two-stage units, they're usually going to have two fan speeds, multi-speed, or variable speed. With the variable speed fans, this changes the speed for the most efficient airflow, so it's going to help keep your temperatures even in your house. And some furnaces can adjust the air speed if your furnace filter starts to get dirty. And the variable speed motors, they're going to be much quieter and you're going to be using less electric. They're also good if you're using allergy furnace filters. You can run the fan only to clean the air. If you have central air, variable speed fans are going to run longer at low speeds, and that's going to help control humidity levels. So furnaces with modulating gas valves and variable speed fans are going to be the most energy efficient. They're going to be the quietest, and they're going to give you the best temperature control. And they're also the best for 2- and 3-story houses.
Okay.
If you see the term multipoise, it's multipoise. It means that the furnace can be installed in a variety of positions. Upflow means you're drawing cool air from the bottom of the furnace. Downflow, you're drawing cool air from the top, or horizontal, the unit's on its side.
When would you do that?
So if you're installing this in an attic or a crawl space, this will allow you to, you can change the parts inside and actually just lay it on its side, and either right side or left side. If you see heat recovery ventilators, these can be added to the intake and exhaust of high-efficiency furnaces. In the winter, the exhaust is going to warm the incoming air, and in the summer, it'll cool the incoming air, and it works just like a heat exchanger. And if you're buying a furnace yourself and then you're having it installed by a contractor, make sure you check the rating for elevation if you live in a high-altitude area.
Okay.
Check the type of furnace filter that's recommended and the size, and make sure you check that your contractor is creating a slot in the cold air return to hold it and it's going to be the correct size, because they can range in width from 1 inch to 6 inches. The slot for my furnace isn't square, and it's really difficult. It's difficult to replace it and push the new one back in there, so I would definitely try that out before your contractor leaves.
Well, what about my parents' furnace?
Yeah, whoever put that in, they didn't create a slot for the cold air return to put a furnace filter in, so we have to pull the main cover off and try to wedge a furnace filter in there to filter it a little bit to protect your furnace. You'll see a MERV value on most furnace filters. It's MERV, and it's the minimum efficiency reporting value. The higher the number, the more particles, and the smaller the particles the filter is going to trap. If you have allergies, a furnace filter can actually help improve your air quality.
Right.
But if you go too high, it can restrict airflow and potentially cause your furnace to shut down to prevent overheating with a heat exchanger. If you don't have any filter at all, you can build up too much dust on your cooling coils if you have central air or the motors inside the furnace. Furnace filters are going to have a range of 1 to 16 for homes and 17 to 20 for commercial buildings like hospitals. And many companies are recommending a MERV 7 to 11 for the best balance of airflow and air cleaning. The leadership in energy and environmental design recommends MERV 8 or higher. The American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers recommends 6 MERV or higher. And, they originally started back in 1894.
Wow.
The U.S. Department of Energy, they recommend MERV 13. And some companies use MPR instead of MERV. So MPR is Microparticle Performance Rating, and this was developed by 3M. A MERV 7 is similar to a 600 MPR. And a MERV 11 is similar to 1,000 to 1,200 MPR.
What about warranties?
One of the main components is the heat exchanger. So when I was looking at some of these furnaces, I saw 5, 10, 20, and lifetime warranties on the heat exchanger. For the main components, the blowers, the controls, I saw anywhere from 1 to 10 years. And then I read through a couple of the warranties, and some of the key things that they seem to have in common was all repairs have to be made by a qualified service dealer or contractor. You must use authorized parts. The furnace must be installed by a licensed professional or a service agency. You must maintain it by a licensed professional or service agency per the manufacturer's instructions provided with the unit. It needs to be annual or periodic, and the owner must provide written documentation for the warranty.
Wow.
And the warranty does not cover flood, wind, fire, mold, lightning, or corrosive materials. The warranty also doesn't cover labor or service calls. And this is just from a few that I read, but that's what they seem to have in common. So you really should read the warranty and talk to the contractor who's putting it in. You might be able to get extended warranties or just compare models, and one might be significantly better.
Okay. Another
interesting thing I saw was on registering your unit. So some manufacturers want you to register within 30 days, others within 60 days. One of the manuals I read, it said, if you register within 60 days, we give you a 10-year warranty on parts. After 60 days, it's only 5-year.
Wow.
So there's some states like California that have laws to protect you even if you don't register. But it's always a good idea to register any of these appliances, anything that's expensive. Not only will it help protect you to get replacement parts, but if there's ever updates or recalls, then you get notifications. Picking the right size furnace and installing it properly is pretty technical, so this is one job you should be hiring a professional for.
Well, some warranties require it, right?
Right, exactly. And when you're getting estimates and reviewing the quotes, you don't want a contractor that says he's just going to replace the furnace with one based on the old furnace size, or he's using a rule of thumb. They should be using the manual J load calculation, and that's just the letter J. They're going to use a program for analyzing your local climate, the direction your home faces, your landscaping, your foundation, the type of siding you have, your shingle color, the R value of your attic and wall insulation, the number of doors and windows, how many levels you have, your ductwork. So it's a very detailed formula, and you're going to get the right size furnace for your home. You don't want a unit that's too big or too small. If you're upgrading to a high-efficiency furnace, you're usually going to need to upgrade your thermostat. So ask a contractor about options like continuous low-speed fan settings, Wi-Fi, programmable options. And if you're picking a specific manufacturer's furnace, see if the contractor is trained and approved by the company. Many of these companies have certification programs, so that way it's installed properly and you're going to maintain your warranty.
Right.
And then you should also ask about the warranty requirements and get all of the parts of the installation in writing so that you're covered. And if your furnace is 20 years old or older, a lot's changed. So how is the duct work? Will the chimney need to be lined, or how are we going to duct this out of the house?
You should also get multiple quotes.
Yeah, a lot of pros are saying get at least 3 estimates. Contact the Better Business Bureau and ask for references, and then actually call those references. And when you're filling out the paperwork, get details on the unit itself, which one it is, the work they're going to do, the warranty. What are they going to do with the old furnace? Are they going to remove it for you? Are they adding or updating the thermostat? Get that in writing. Are they doing anything with the ductwork or zoning? Also, you should ask a contractor about rebates. There's a lot of areas where you can get some money off if you're going to high-efficiency furnaces. Do they need a permit? And I would ask about their training and their certifications. NATE is N-A-T-E. It's the North American Technical Excellence Certificate. They should have that. BPI is the Building Performance Institute. It's another certification. There's an HVAC Excellence Certification. That means they've been at least 2 years in the field. They have at least 2 years experience if they've passed an exam. And there's an HVAC Master Specialist that has 3 years field experience, and what state licenses and insurance is required, and you should call your local village for that. Also, if they're doing central air, they need an EPA certification.
Okay.
Some top-rated furnaces come from Ruud, it's R-U-U-D, Trane, T-R-A-N-E, American Standard, Carrier, C-A-R-R-I-E-R, Bryant, Rheem, it's R-H-E-E-M, Fujitsu, it's F-U-J-I-T-S-U, and Lennox, L-E-N-N-O-X. But I would read the reviews on specific models when I'm shopping, and the key thing is the warranty and the experience of your contractor. I spoke to Andrew from Fujitsu, and he had some tips.
Hey, JC.
How you doing, Andy?
I'm great.
Cindy and I were talking about the new high-efficiency furnaces, and we were wondering whether you could give us some tips on the most important things a homeowner should know when they're shopping for a gas furnace.
Absolutely, JC. There's kind of like the old joke in real estate. What are the 3 most important things you need to know about shopping for a gas furnace? And my recommendation is contractor, contractor, contractor. There's a lot of reasons for that, JC. First of all, safety. If you think about a gas furnace, you've got 110 volts of electricity going into it. You've got natural gas, which is always tricky. The products of combustion can asphyxiate you. So there's a lot of things you want to get right when it comes down to a furnace, and that all starts with choosing a good contractor. And if you're choosing the right contractor, he's going to address several different issues about your gas furnace. And first and foremost is comfort. And he will ask questions about temperature throughout the house. He'll ask questions about airflow. He'll ask questions about efficiency. He'll spend some time talking about warranty. All those things that give you peace of mind with a good purchase. So I highly recommend you spend a lot of time talking to your contractor and getting to know the right guy to be in your home for a day or two, change the furnace, and make it so it's going to be very comfortable for you for a long time to come.
Okay. I think it's very smart to get a good contractor to install it. What are some of the things we should be looking for if we're actually shopping for the unit itself?
There's a lot of things going on with the unit today, and there's several things you want to be looking for. The first step is understanding what's right for your home and what you want. If you're on a budget and looking for that cost-efficient solution, there's a couple parts to that equation. The first equation is your upfront cost. That's always a factor, and I know that furnaces don't break down only when you have money in the bank, when you least expect it and can least afford it. You have to make good decisions about your budget, but the reality with any furnace is there's a chance it's going to save you a lot of money down the road. So if you upgrade to a higher efficiency, today in the USA, in the northern part of the USA, we're selling only 90% furnaces, and down south we're looking at a lot more 80% efficient furnaces. But either way, they're a big upgrade over what you've had in the past. So that's question one, what efficiency you're looking for. And the technology's gotten so much better, and essentially what we're doing is we're keeping those products of combustion in the furnace longer, and there's pros and cons to that. The advantage is you're bringing all that efficiency out of that gas. The downside is it starts to condensate, and that condensate has a little bit of acid in it, and you need a different type of vent system when you do that. Anything over 88% efficient or so, you get into that condensate point. So your contractors will be running quite often out the sidewall or even out the roof. They'll be running PVC pipe as opposed to what you may expect with a metal flue running out of your furnace. So very different technology, and that certainly makes you a lot more efficient furnace. A couple other things you probably should be looking for, and one of those is airflow. The efficiency of the fans we're putting in furnace, they are significantly higher than they've been in the past. And they're doing that with inverter technology, and essentially that means they're taking the electrical power that's coming in an AC or alternating current and changing it into a direct current. And that allows us to ramp that direct current up and down and give you exactly the amount of airflow you need in your home at any given time. That runs on pennies on the dollar compared to the traditional permanent split capacitor motor we use.
Because I heard one of the complaints when they first started with the high-efficiency furnaces, they weren't pushing as much air, especially if you had like a split level or a two-story home.
Yeah, that is a combination of things happening there, JC. The furnaces certainly can push all the air that's needed. All the major manufacturers, Fujitsu included, give you a wide range of CFM options in the home. Okay. Sometimes what has happened is the higher efficiency furnaces don't need as many BTUs in, so sometimes contractors have chosen smaller blowers as well, and quite often the duct system just isn't designed properly to begin with. So it doesn't matter whose furnace is going in there and what blower size it has, but the furnaces certainly have plenty of air power at the air to your space. So again, that comes back to that same question we talked about before, is making sure your contractor is a high-quality contractor and doing the analysis of the existing ductwork. Very important to make sure you get the right system in there.
Are there certain qualifications that you should be looking for with a contractor?
Yeah, obviously, ask your contractor about his team's training, where their training's taking place, and ask them if they're NATE certified. NATE is the federal standard for training. Obviously, all HVAC contractors now are required to have refrigeration certification. According to the EPA, illegal to work with refrigerant in residential or commercial systems without that refrigeration certification. So there's several different check marks. And like with any contractor, JC, make sure there's insurance behind them. Make sure they're getting the proper licenses in your market so you don't put yourself in an insurance situation by having somebody in who's not qualified to do the work.
And when we're shopping for a gas furnace, should we be considering central air at the same time?
Yeah, anytime you're looking at a gas furnace, if you don't have central air, that's the time to add it, or it's time to ask the contractor about the central air you do have. So certainly it's much cheaper to do it all at one time, and the contractors are going to give you a better deal on the system than they will coming out and doing them separately, because a major part of that air conditioning system is sitting right on top of that furnace. It's called the evaporator coil, and that's what brings all the refrigerant in from outside and allows you to take the humidity out of your home as well as get the temperatures down to what's comfortable. Not to get too far off of task here, but it might be time also to ask the question about carbon. If you're worried about carbon production, it's time to even ask questions about a heat pump. And a good contractor will tell you if the heat pump's a good solution for you and your home, and if you can reduce your own carbon emissions significantly by making that choice.
So what are some of the key features we should be asking contractors about when we're shopping?
Certainly, first and foremost, ask about efficiency. What efficiency you recommend and why? And hopefully he's done his homework and asked you the questions about what you're really looking for, and he'll be able to specify exactly what you want. The next question to ask is what type of airflow. So is it going to be that ECM or constant torque motor that gives me more efficiency? Another important question to ask is ask about zoning. So many homes, the duct systems never work quite right, and it's very difficult for a furnace or air conditioner without perfect ductwork to get the master bedroom and way in the back corner of the house the same temperature as the kitchen, which is right above the furnace. So it's a great time to ask the contractor about zoning. And essentially what zoning will do for you is put dampers in the ductwork that will allow you to turn some rooms on and some rooms off. Which does a couple things for you. A, it makes you comfortable. You get the temperature you want in the rooms that you want to be comfortable. The second thing it does, it allows you to turn the rest of the house way down when you're not using it, so you can save yet even more money, make your system even more efficient by not heating and cooling those spaces you don't live.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I know. I don't know about you, JC, but I'm an empty nester, and that 2,600 square foot seemed like a perfect house when I had 2 kids at home, but my wife and I now live in 600 square feet and wonder why we're heating and cooling the rest of them.
Right.
So that's a very important one to ask about. The next question I would ask a contractor about is talk to them about the ductwork. And there's several things to ask about the ductwork. The first, is it sized properly? Can you make sure it's the right ductwork for this furnace? To your question earlier, sometimes the new equipment may have different airflow requirements, but quite often the duct system was never built properly to begin with. So ask the contractor to check that out. The next thing, is it clean? So often that dust just builds up in a duct system if it's not properly filtered at the furnace. And that dust and debris and all that nasty stuff is blowing into your air 24 hours a day. And that's not a good, healthy environment to live in. So getting that contractor to look at duct cleaning is a great option too.
Well, especially if you purchased an older home or an existing home.
Yeah, some of those duct systems have been running for 25, 30, 40 years, right. And that dust has just built up over time, and there's no way to get in there and clean it unless you have a professional with the right tools to go in and do it. So when you're changing the furnace, it's a great time to get that fixed as well and get it up to speed. Another important question to ask your contractor is about insulation. It's great to get a new furnace, and it's going to save you some money, but if you're trying to heat and cool a home that doesn't have the right insulation, you're wasting a lot of money. So it's a great time to ask, is there more insulation I need anywhere? Not only in the house, but in the ductwork itself. In the southern parts of the country, if you're trying to cool a home when you got ductwork in the attic and there's no insulation around it, you're wasting 30 or 40% of your energy dollar just by that lack of proper insulation. So the contractor can inspect the whole house, give you some recommendations on insulation in general, but also make sure the ductwork is properly insulated so you're not giving money away because you've not insulated. And then the final question I would ask, well, there's two, actually. One, the first of those two is accessories. It's time to accessorize. And everybody knows when you buy the Big Mac, you get the French fries to go with it. Well, when you buy a new furnace, there's a couple of accessories you should think about. One of those is air cleaning. So you get your ductwork all sparkly clean, you get a new furnace in there, and if you're not filtering that air right, you're really not doing yourselves any favors. So what type of filtration do you want? And that ranges all the way from basic filters you would find at the local hardware store, all the way through more efficiency pleated type filters that improve your filtration significantly, to electronic air cleaners, which actually create a static electricity and get the very fine particles and mold and bacteria. And then also something to consider is UV lights in your ductwork. Often on your condensing coil in the summertime, that water just sits there and grows a little mold. So a UV light will make sure that mold is destroyed. Will also kill the bacteria in the air and make your home a lot safer and more friendly for that indoor environment. In addition to filtering that air, another thing to consider in a lot of the country, and it doesn't hold true everywhere, but many places in the country, as it starts to get cold, your house starts to dry out. The air gets drier, and boy, that causes a lot of problems. You get the dry skin, some people get bloody noses, there's drying of your wood floors, and if you have a piano, a lack of humidity is one of the worst things you can do to it. So it's time to talk to your contractor about humidification. Contractors have a lot of solutions and accessories you can add to that furnace to keep the humidity levels proper. We even have controls on humidifiers now that will adjust based on the temperature outside, so you won't get that frozen condensate on your windows when it gets really cold. The final accessory I'd like to talk about is control. Controls are just going crazy right now. If you don't believe me, just ask Alexa. She'll tell you. There are a lot of choices on how to control a heating air conditioning system. The contractors will answer a bunch of questions for you and help you out with that. But think about what you want. You want to tell your furnace what to do? Do you want a better, easier to use control on the wall? Do you want it to work on an app on your phone? Do you want to be able to turn your furnace on and off from the beach in Barbados? A lot of options for you to choose from. But think about that and be ready to talk to your contractor about what control system is best for you. Obviously, setback thermostats are still a very good thing, so the house isn't heating at a very high temperature when you're not there. Obviously, that's not a good use of energy and your dollars, so thermostats can do that for you. But also just how do you interface with your system, be it on the phone or on the wall or just telling Alexa. All those are good, and your contractor can help you make that decision.
So thinking about a smart thermostat while you're purchasing and upgrading your furnace.
Absolutely. It's much better to know from your contractor, because many of the furnaces and air conditioners and heat pumps today actually have pretty smart brains inside of them as well that do some self-diagnostic and track what's going on. So when your contractor does come for a service issue, he's going to know what happened. And when those systems can talk together and your furnace can tell you, hey, might be time to change the furnace, it's nice to have that information handy.
Andrew, if we wanted to learn more about the Fujitsu products, where would we go?
Best place to go for our products is constantcomfort.com. Again, www.constantcomfort.com, and you'll be able to find all the products we sell, all the furnaces, and all the high efficiency and standard efficiency options. You also will be able to find a contractor in your area to help you make those choices. So we'd love for you to come and take a look. We would be happy to help.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you for your time, Andrew.
My pleasure, JC. Anytime.
Okay, thank you.
That was a great interview.
You know, Fujitsu was founded in 1936.
No, but good to know. Thank you. Do you have anything else to add?
If you live in a cold climate, you're going to save a lot of money over 20 to 30 years with a new high-efficiency furnace. A multi-stage valve with a multi- or variable speed fan is going to be the most energy efficient, and it's going to keep your home the most comfortable. If you have hot or cold spots in your home, you should look into zone ducts, update your thermostat, compare the warranties, and make sure you follow the maintenance requirements.
Make sure you keep all your receipts and register your furnace.
Right, absolutely.
Let's wrap this up.
You can subscribe to our podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, CastBox, Player FM, soon Pandora, or your favorite podcast app.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can download our books, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, on Amazon, book 1 through 5, and we're getting ready to send book 6 to the editor.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com, and you can follow Cindy on Twitter @FixitCohost.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.